One mic.
All I need is one mic.
What's the name of the show?
One mic with Big Mike.
You know, ain't nobody getting hurt, ain't nobody, there's no crime being committed.
And they say his style is too urban for the radio.
This is real life stuff that's happened to me.
Well, you know what?
You, and you.
One mic with Big Mike.
I like to be able to do what I want to do.
A sports talk show, but no subject matter is off limits.
Meek Mill's concert is not called the Hell Yeah, I Banged Khloe Kardashian concert.
And now, your host.
Put your hands together for the one, the only
Big Mike.
All I need is one mic.
Yes, back from the weekend. Hope everyone had a great weekend. This is One Mic with Big Mike. Big Mike here with you. I'll talk a little football today. How about that? I hope to see you guys inside the chat room. I'm broadcasting via Spreaker.com and the Spreaker app. Make sure you guys check me out on there. That's Spreaker, Spreaker.com, or the Spreaker app for all of your mobile devices. Make sure you follow my show. Search the number one, MIC, WITH, BIGMIKE. Once you do that, sign up for your free Spreaker account and hop on in the chat room. We're going to talk some football today, man. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the number one, MIC, WITH, BIGMIKE. And on Facebook, like my page. I got a good amount of likes this week. Or I guess that would be last week. But I would like to add you to that number. ONE, MIC, WITH, BIGMIKE. Like my Facebook page. So yeah, coming off the weekend. Didn't do a show on Friday because apparently I'm one of the people who overreacted to Snowmageddon, which wasn't and didn't happen. Like, I don't know where you guys are listening from. Like my boy Josh, he's in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and they got like blasted with snow, and it happens like a couple times a year for them, right? Like once or twice a year, they get like hit pretty good, right? So if they're to be shut down, like he was like, I might not get out the house till Monday, till today, and this is like, I don't know, Saturday when I talked to him. But around here, dude, it rained a little bit, and it was like 38 degrees, and folks was like, nope, everybody got to go home. People, let your people out of work. Kids, get out of school early. And I'm like, come on, man. And I knew it was going to happen because a couple of years ago, they had the big Snowmageddon or Ice-mageddon or whatever you want to call it, right? And I was one who was, I don't know if I was stuck at work. I was at work, working at the radio station at the time. And me and my guy, Alec Campbell, we were holding down a shift at the JO because no one else could do it. So why not reach to the bottom of the barrel and get us? And they did. But then inevitably, I ended up driving, that 20-something miles to my house because, it was one of those things. My family's here, and I didn't know if they, had power and all those kind of things. So I went ahead and trekked, and there was obviously no one else on the road. It took me a while to actually get to the house, but eventually I did, and I saw people's, cars run into embankments and all those kind of things. But every year since then, that was 2 years ago. Now every year since then, we've got to bear it now. We've got to believe that the world is coming to an end because there's a little precipitation in the air and the temperature drops a little bit. Cool. So there was no show on Friday. There won't be another show again this Friday as well because I got to go to the doctor. Got some tests I got to get run on me, and that's gonna take me. They couldn't get it done any earlier, so it's gonna take me into the time where I will be prepping for the show. So there will be no show on Friday as well. So let's make the most of what we got for today and Wednesday. If you're new to listening to the show airs most Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 o'clock. Usually just go until I'm done talking, the cap being 9 p.m., the cap being, a 2-hour show, so 7 to 9. But if I'm done earlier than that, fine. I mean, it won't be 45 minutes or, an hour. Well, I don't know. Some days it might be an hour. It hasn't been so far, but if the case ever arises, that's why. Because I'm not gonna force myself, to think of things to talk about and be clever and all those good things. Nah, if there's nothing else to talk about, there's nothing else to talk about. So, as I set the show up here, Like I said, we're gonna talk some football today, man. We're gonna I know if you've been listening to your XM, your whatever, everybody and anybody. Today is the day you just break down the game. This is what happened in the fourth quarter, and this is who made the big mistake, and this is who's to blame for all that. Not really my thing. You know what I mean? I try to look for those auxiliary stories around what happened in sports. In this particular case, being the AFC and NFC Championship game, and some pretty interesting things happened that I noticed, or that raised a level of intrigue in me, and I wanted to discuss them today. In case you didn't know, the Broncos, they lost to the Broncos beat the Patriots by 2 points yesterday, and the Cardinals got it pushed way in by the Carolina Panthers yesterday, like 39-15, and it quite frankly could have been worse, so that's that. So we're going to talk about those two things, but I want to talk a little bit about, in particular, these two games, two of the quarterbacks, and mostly Cam Newton. I want to talk about what's going on with him, his journey, how it is that now all has been forgotten. All the things that people said about this kid, and I'm not even talking about the things that were related to his game, because you assess people, and sometimes people evolve and sometimes people change. So that's no big deal, and we'll get into it a lot deeper as the show goes on here. We'll also talk about tonight. The Warriors on NBA TV take on the San Antonio Spurs, and unbelievably, it's the first time they've seen each other this year. So a nice barometer for both teams. Both teams the best, not even just the best in the West, the best in the league, in the entire NBA. So they get to I guess test each other, and we get a treat at 10 o'clock at night. Sucks that it's on the West Coast, but what are you gonna do? You got to deal with it, right? We got to talk some Atlanta Falcons today. A little bit of weirdness going on in there with their coaching staff, man, that I don't understand. And I put it out there on Facebook yesterday, and for the couple of responses that I got to it, the people who are fans of this team don't get it either. And it's been done before, and it didn't work out well. And we'll talk about what exactly it is that I'm talking about, or that I'm referring to here, and as the show moves on. Also, the Hawks are at Denver tonight. Hawks doing pretty well, in third place, if I'm not mistaken, right now in the East. So the Hawks are in prime position as far as the Eastern Conference goes, moving into the second half of the season. I know we haven't made it to the All-Star break, but I think numbers-wise, we're over 41 games for each team now. So halfway through the season, the Hawks are all right record-wise, but I'm still a guy who has a couple of concerns about what I see out on the basketball court in regards to the Hawks. I'll talk about Friday. Wasn't here on Friday, and while I'm braving the storm or whatnot, the Cleveland Cavaliers fired their head coach David Blatt. Yeah, the guy who had only lost 11 ball games and was in first place in the Eastern Conference got fired. And there's some guys who took exception to it, some current coaches in the NBA that took exception to it. And then there's some other guys, Stephen A. Smith being one of them, that apparently totally understands. Like, everyone understands exactly why this is supposed to have happened. And, all right, and my only problem with that being, if you can understand why this happened, don't tell me you can't understand why Lovie Smith got fired. You know what I mean? Don't tell me that you can't see a rational reason that Lovie Smith would have gotten fired from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past year. But I'll move on. And we're going to talk about transgender athletes as well. Yes, the transgenders made the show. And it actually I actually have a question to pose, and I rarely do this, but I'm trying to find out if that social pendulum has just swung all the way to the left, and not everyone feels the public pressure to be all inclusive, no matter what. You know what I mean? Just to be able to say we are. Don't say we're being reclusive, or we're not involving everyone. And at certain times, it's like, I don't know. Certain times it's all right. But I tell you guys what I'm talking about as we move on here. Now, to tomorrow's game. Tomorrow. There is no game tomorrow. To this past weekend's games in the NFL. Wow, that first game was something to behold. You know what I mean? We saw and I mentioned it last week. I mentioned, the quarterbacks who could afford to have subpar performances, but still have their defense carry them. And Peyton Manning was one of them. The guy who I mentioned didn't have that luxury was Tom Brady. Now, his defense did play well in the second half of the ballgame. I don't think the Broncos scored any points. If they did, they scored like 3 points in the second half. But the one thing that wasn't going to happen for the Patriots, it didn't seem like Gary Kubiak was going to put Peyton Manning in a position where he could give them extra possessions. Now, he did at one point with that lateral that he threw to the running back. Now, and as soon as he threw it, I hollered it out. I was like, that's a lateral. Immediately. Now, the problem with that is that as the linebacker scooping the football, the whistle blows. So, it of course is a scoop and score, but the fact that the whistle was blown, they did end up reviewing it, and the Patriots got the football, and they got it at that spot, though, at the spot of the recovery. So, other than that, there were no extra possessions for the Patriots, and that I think that was probably the game plan going in for Peyton Manning, a guy who missed what he missed, 5-6 games this year, but still was second in the league in interceptions. That's absurd. So yeah, I think for what it's worth, they kind of pulled the Trent Dilfer thing on Peyton Manning. Like Peyton Manning turned into Trent Dilfer yesterday, and then let that defense led by Von Miller and Aqib Talib and Chris Harris and DeMarcus Ware, just let them go eat. Because here's the reality. When you got DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller on the edge and Steven Jackson is in the backfield, no one's playing the run, homeboy. Your tackles are at their mercy. Now, people was like, well, why didn't they try to chip? Or why didn't they try to do this? Whatever, man. Whatever. They tried extra linemen and all that kind of stuff, but the fact of the matter is, we know you are going to pass the football, right? And we have 2 prime-time pass rushers on our team. Big time. I can't think of the kid's name that in the middle that they just awarded a contract extension to. They just gave him a contract extension, if I can say it in English. So yeah, that in and of itself was an entire mismatch. It went back to the 2007 Super Bowl against the Giants when they had Strahan and Tuck and Matthias Kiwanuka and O.C. Umenyiora and that NASCAR situation going on. Yeah, same deal. So Tom Brady was like, yeah, I'm going to try to get it to Edelman and Gronk. And I heard someone say this today, and I can't remember who it was. God, who said it today? They talked about the Denver defense taking away Brady's first look because, his MO is to kind of counteract the deficiencies on the offensive line by getting rid of the football quickly. Well, in this case, they just took the first read away and made him force him to go to 2 and 3 read. By that time, yeah, again, your tackles have there's no hope in keeping both Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware off of your quarterback. That being said, there was a lot of fuss made today about how he could miss Gronkowski for the 2-point conversion at the end because the game ended up still coming down to a 2-point conversion, surprisingly. And I tweeted it at halftime. It's like I felt like that Broncos team should have been in more control. It just felt like, and you realize what it is. It's the Hall of Fame quarterback. You know what I mean? He's playing like Trent Dilfer. So as dominant as the defense is being, and you feel like, damn, this game seems like it should be well in hand. Well, the reason it's not is because the guy wearing number 18 taking snaps from center is, playing conservatively and being a quote unquote game manager and not being, the Peyton that we've known him to be. And I think that's the other thing that happened with Bill Belichick. Some of the decisions that he made that are being criticized today as far as well, first of all, damn kickers. Kickers All right, I'm not gonna say anything really vile, but like I just got this real disdain for kickers. Like even the best kicker might as well be the most, I don't know, healthy crack addict. You know what I mean? Like what the hell does that even mean at the end of the day? Because when you need to get a point, just a point, an extra point, where really no one's rushing. Like let's keep it real. Like dudes might rush during a desperation time where, you know, they need to make a big play because now this year you can actually return the kick for 2 points on defense. But in that situation, Steven Gostkowski just sliced the hell out of it. And then you look at that and you say, well, from the Denver perspective, it's all about keeping the game close and not making any mistakes. So for them, it's like, all right, yeah, this is what we need. Keep them chasing points. And then from that on, you could tell Bill Belichick was in the fourth quarter, he was chasing that point. And you heard Troy Aikman saying stuff like the one thing about that mixed extra point, it doesn't really change the way this game is being called in the perspective of the coaches as it goes to calling plays. I was like, you a lie? This dude went for it on fourth down like 6 times in a quarter. Of course it did. But of course he could have kicked field goals and the game might have had a different complexion to it. Just saying that. And speaking of that extra point, man, like what other rule in the NBA NFL, has rule change has affected the game like that? You know, like what other rule has come into play that's actually taken points that were at one point looked upon as guaranteed to now, you know, not so much, especially in big situations, inclement weather, those type of situations. And then remember last year, the Chip Kelly suggestion was like, if we're going to move the extra point back, well, let's move the try for 2 up a yard. So now it is not 2 yards, it's 1 yard. Now think about that as it relates to this football game. The end of the game, the Patriots needed 2 points. And they seem to be the, you know, if not the guy in Carolina, like Tom Brady gets those 4th and 1s pretty frequently. You know what I mean? So that one rule, it just seemed that to rear its head, you know, very, very evidently in this game. You know, opposing a coach that actually was very, 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 very for the movement of ironically, for the movement of the extra point to make it a 35-yard field goal. And then it ended up coming back to bite them. Like you say, hell yeah, we should do this because you got this good kicker that ain't missed an extra point in 2 years. But then you show up in the AFC Championship against a Broncos team who, yeah, I mean, maybe you should win. You know, that defense played out of its mind, especially the front. But there were still opportunities to win a football game. And then if you just need an extra point to tie it from a dude who hadn't missed in 2 years, I'll take those odds. But because he did miss, it changes the whole complexity of the game. Going back to the strategy against Tom Brady, taking away that first look, I want people here in my city, Atlanta, to understand that doing that and combining it with pressure, even the greatest, and Tom Brady is arguably the greatest, look like that. Look like that. And that's the exact same thing, everyone. And this isn't me. This isn't me trying to be Mr. I watch film guy. No. This is opponents and coaches of the opposing coaches, of the Atlanta Falcons saying, yeah, that's what we did. We tried to take away Ryan's first read and hope that the pressure got there. And a lot of times it did. And you saw it again yesterday. And I hope that gives the people here in my fair city some perspective. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you're a little bit too emotionally close to a situation, like with Matt Ryan. So you think, you hear stuff like, oh man, he need to stop panicking in the pocket. You try it. Yeah, dude looking like Vontez Burfict is running after you. You try it. Yeah, come on, man. It ain't that. You know what I mean? Whatever that you think that is, it ain't. And you got a good example of it yesterday with Tom Brady. So now Peyton Manning, 39-year-old Peyton Manning, is in his now 4th Super Bowl. Yeah. And the funny thing about it, kind of the ironic thing about it, he's looking at the same team he got his ass handed to him by in the last Super Bowl. Essentially, right? That Seattle team with that great defense, mobile quarterback, power running game. Only this time, your mobile quarterback is a part of your power running game. That's ridiculous. To even think that way is ridiculous as hell. But yeah, it's true. Only thing I think this time that's different is the fact that his defense should be able to hold their own to a certain extent. But what's going on in Carolina, it's I said it yesterday, I don't know how the hell they lost to the Atlanta Falcons. And I know a lot of people said, it came in the aftermath of the Josh Norman, Odell Beckham Jr. situation where, there was a lot more media coverage on this team for the wrong reasons. Like, all the other coverage was about this team going undefeated. And as you can see, this is not a team that really, it doesn't look like this team stresses about winning ball games. But I think the other stuff, the stuff with Odell Beckham Jr., it took a little bit of a mental toll, and it came into the team, to the game with the Falcons, who, by the way, in 2 weeks earlier, they smashed those dudes like nobody's business, right? But thus is the NFL, right? This is quote unquote why you play the game. And I heard somebody today say that might have been a good thing for them to get them refocused or whatnot. It may be, you know what I mean? Maybe, but leave it up to the Falcons to ruin my history. I wanted to see history. Team go 19-0. That's outstanding. Yeah, I didn't get to see it in 2007 because of the Giants and David Tyree. All right, whatever. But it would have been good to see it happen this year. But needless to say, it won't. So, yeah, that's what Peyton Manning is going to have to deal with. You know what I mean? And they don't really have, their running game it ain't Steven Jackson, but it's okay. But I don't know. I don't know how Peyton Manning is going to deal with that defense. You know what I mean? Roman Harper left the game yesterday with a eye injury. The safety, it looks like he's 90 years old, but he's really only 32 or something like that. He just, went great early in life. Also, Thomas Davis with a broken arm because some kind of way the dumbass tight end from the Cardinals thought he was going to hurdle 3 grown men standing straight. The last time I saw that, I thought Jordan Reed did that in the Georgia-Florida game a couple years ago. But he fumbled the football and lost the damn game for him. So that happened. But yeah, ended up breaking Thomas Davis's arm. And he says he's going to play in the game. And I don't doubt him. I don't. You know what I mean? This kid that's been in the league, 3 ACL surgeries. Now he got a surgery on his arm today. Obviously, they probably put some type of titanium in there, some type of a rod or a plate or something like that in his arm. And, everyone's talking about, well, yeah, it's an arm. See, it's not something that you got to put pressure on. So it's even funny for me to hear it coming out of my mouth. So, they can pad that up. Yeah, says the person who's never had a broken arm or a broken bone. Yeah, they can pad it up. But what they also going to do, the thing that no one wants to talk about, they going to needle that thing up. Yeah, they gonna shoot him up real good. So it's almost like he doesn't even have an arm. Yeah, because there's no way, man. That you know how excruciating that pain, just natural pain, would be for him. We talking 2 weeks. Usually they get 6 weeks, and this is something that I've in a minor way I've played with. It was my pinky, and they put a pin in it. They drilled a hole through the bone and then put a pin in it to help it heal faster so that I can get back to playing. I wouldn't have to sit out. And then they wrapped it up with all this kind of stuff. They put a cast on it, then wrapped it up in more pads, like a huge club on my hand. And guess what? Every time it hit something, it hurt like hell. Yeah, don't give me that. This is his arm. This is a much bigger bone. But, what can you say? He got his first Pro Bowl vote this year. Not vote, but I guess he got voted to the Pro Bowl for the first time this year. First time going to the Super Bowl. He's the longest tenured Carolina Panther, like I already mentioned. The 3 ACL surgeries he's coming back off of. Y'all hear Troy Aikman? He's like, yeah, he might be faster than before. See, they always do those things. They do them kind of inadvertently. But if you're me and you hear that, you realize that that's not something that is done naturally by humans. You don't have 3 ACL surgeries, reconstructive knee surgeries, and come back better. That's not even taking into consideration the fact that you're older, right? But then you're better than you were before you had the 3 ACL reconstructive surgeries. Come on, man, that screams PEDs. You know, I don't know what that dude is doing. He must have found the fountain of youth. They say stuff like that too. Same thing. Ain't no damn fountain of youth. It's called HGH. I mean, it's called PEDs. But you know what? We don't care. We don't care because it's the NFL. And why should we? You know what I mean? Why the hell should we? We get entertainment out of it. We get to see these big, supernatural, beefed up dudes running into each other at full speed. This is why, again, all that whole player safety crap about defenseless receivers and defenseless players and all this kind of crap, it's crap. That happens about, at the most, maybe you might get 2 of those. You might get 4 of those in a whole weekend of football, right? But ain't nobody. Like, look at the guys up there run blocking. look at what they're going through, smashing their heads up against. No one cares about no damn player safety. We don't. This is why anytime somebody like, man, that's a foul, that's a penalty. Whatever. You're an idiot. Of course, I mean, it is now. It's a penalty. But that isn't solving the head injury problem. That's not going to save somebody's brain from turning into pudding pops. Nah. It is what it is. And the game will move on. You know, no matter what Antoine Randall L says, in 25 years, there'll be no football. Yeah, there will. Yeah, it just look different. Yeah, be a bunch of bros out there. A bunch of low-income bros from single-parent homes that don't have any other options. Anybody watch boxing lately? Shout out to Matt. Matt's in the chat room. You guys can join Matt in the chat room as well. Just go to Spreaker, SPREAKER.com, or the Spreaker app. Then search for my show, the number 1, MICWITHBIGMIKE. You can also use that for Twitter and Instagram. Facebook is a little bit different. My Facebook page, you can go ahead and like that at ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. Now, after the break, we're going to do our daily segment where we take a look back into the history of sports on this day. It's kind of short today, and it's short on purpose today because I want to get into this this Cardinals-Panthers game, but not necessarily the game itself. I want to talk about one Cameron Jarius Newton, right? What's Cam in? Like his 5th year in the league now, right? And Cam has had quite the journey, you know. And I'm not talking his life story and all the kind of things. I mean the way he's perceived and he's been perceived from his days let's say from his days at Florida, you know, to then him showing up on the scene at Auburn, to the controversy with the money. Then some things were written about him pre-draft. Then other things were said about him post-draft and in the earlier stages of his career. And now, lo and behold, boy, it looks like everybody love Cam, don't it? And I'm not really hitting the racial element that hard, although it does truly exist. And for whatever reason, the white people who do this, they seem to be confused. Like I've heard the question asked so many times, like, why do you think Cam Newton is so polarized? I'm like, yeah, you're really asking this? No, you're not. You know why? Because he's black and he's better than everyone else. You can't be both. You know what I mean? You can't. You can be black. This is one of my golden rules when it comes to sports. And hear me out. You can be black. You can be better than everyone else. But you can't let everyone else know about it. And that's the part that he falls short in. So, yeah, that's why. You know? Ain't no way that this black dude can be telling me how much better he is than me. Sure he can. You know? And like I say, on the other side of the break, I'll get into it. I'll get into why exactly it is you need to enjoy this now. Like, take advantage and eat it up and soak it up right now. because it's going to be a problem here in a little while. We'll be back after a short one.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzzed driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says, "I'm a catch," more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Layla Ali. I might be undefeated in professional boxing, but there's one problem even I can't fight alone. Childhood hunger. Over 17 million kids in America may not know where their next meal is coming from. That's 1 in 5 children. Yet billions of pounds of surplus food produced right here in America just get thrown out every year. That's more than enough to feed every last hungry child. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to hungry kids before it goes to waste. But they can't do it without your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by going to feedingamerica.org. Together we can knock out hunger. Together we're Feeding America.
To help solve hunger in your community and to find your local food bank, visit feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. One Mike with Big Mike. Let me tell you what happened yesterday. Let me tell you how crazy I am. And just like the stuff I noticed. So yesterday morning, I decided since the game will start to like 3, whatever, right? I'm gonna get up and get something done. I had to do some work with the garage, with the garage door button, right? So I go down to Lowe's, and it's about, I don't know, 1 o'clock or so, right? And I'm walking around to get to the aisle I need to go to, and just so happened I start paying attention to the other dudes that are in Lowe's with me. And I happened to notice that they're in there with their old ladies. And one dude, the first dude I saw him, and then I turned back to walk where I was walking. And I kind of took a double take. He was like still looking at me, and I was like, "Oh, that dude he looked like a lost puppy." Like I'm in here looking at damn like refrigerators, and the game about to start in an hour. I was like, "Yeah, sucks to be you, dude. Like you should have made those rules early on. Like put them in the vows, cuz." That on Sunday between, October and February, don't F with me, woman, at all. Because it was a couple of dudes in there looking sad as hell. Like one dude was back there looking at carpet. I was like, don't your wife own a calendar, cuz? Don't she know what today is? But yeah, I did my old Kermit the Frog sipping the tea and just kept it moving. That ain't none of my business. I got my ass back home after picking up a few snacks. Got some chicken in me and some burgers, and I was ready. I was good to go. I actually missed the first 2 minutes of the game, but who cares? Those dudes probably missed the whole thing. Had to DVR it or some craziness. Anyway, this is One Mike with Big Mike, being heard on Spreaker.com every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the Spreaker app for all your mobile devices. Make sure you guys are following me on Spreaker at the number 1 MICWITHBIGMIKE, and use that for Twitter and Instagram as well, and for Facebook. You guys make sure you check me out on a Facebook page, ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. Now, I told you guys when we get back, we're going to first take a look back and do our daily look into the history, give you guys some historical factoids in sports. But also, the main thing, I want to talk about this Cardinals and Panthers game and talk a little bit about Cam Newton, Cameron Jarius Newton Jr. I think he's a junior. I met his dad before. I talked to his dad one time at the Frank Ski Bowl. Seems like a real good dude, man. But like I said, we'll take a look back here, and then we'll get into all that very, very shortly.
Now, let's take a look back. On this day.
All right, let's get through this. In 1924, on this day, the first Winter Olympic Games, also known as the Winter Olympic Festival, were inaugurated in Chamonix in the French Alps. 16 countries sent 294 athletes to compete in 5 sports and 13 events. You know, this Jesse Owens movie's coming out here pretty soon, and I don't know. I got fooled by that Jackie Robinson thing. That was terrible. And this one is rated PG-13 too. Now with all that racism, you'd think it should get a good, nice little R rating on it. So something tells me they're going to be using other words than the ones they actually used back in the day. On this day in 1939, Joe Louis knocked out John Henry Lewis in one round to win the heavyweight boxing title. On this day in 1945, the New York Yankees, sold by Rupert Estate to construction magnate Del Webb and partners Dan Topping and Larry MacPhail for $2.8 million. You probably can't even buy a Yankees uniform for that now. On this day in 1974, Ray Kroc, yes, that Ray Kroc, the CEO of McDonald's, he bought the San Diego Padres for $12 million. I think Magic them dropped down 2-point-something billion for the Dodgers a couple years ago. Yeah. On this day in 1989, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, he scored his 10,000th NBA point in his 5th season. Yeah, that long ago. On this day in 1989, John Elway finally got him a Super Bowl ring. The Denver Broncos beat the Green Bay Packers 31-24 in Super Bowl, I think this is 32. XXXII. I think that's 32. The Broncos had lost 3 previous Super Bowl appearances with quarterback John Elway to win. The other win also broke a 13-game winning streak for the NFC. Yeah, that's when everybody was like the Cowboys and the 49ers and the damn Packers. Everybody from the NFC was winning championships, and the AFC couldn't sniff one. On this day in, where am I at? 1999, after an inquiry into a corruption scandal, 6 International Olympic Committee members are expelled. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Olympics, hopefully before I get up out of here tonight, because something weird. Now, I'm not sure I understand how it's going to actually work is going on with the Olympics right now. And finally, in 2003, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won Super Bowl XXXV in San Diego with Coach John Gruden. You know, all the black folks like to say, he won with Tony Dungy's players. Actually, John Gruden was 39, and he was the youngest coach to ever win the title. Now, that's a great way of editing history. You know what I mean? That John Gruden won with Tony Dungy's players. And I've always asked this question. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your Monday edition of On This Day. If John Gruden was able to win with Tony Dungy's players, why the hell wasn't Tony Dungy able to win with Tony Dungy's players? I'm just, I think it's a question that should be asked and addressed. It's too simple to just be like, yeah, look what he did. It's like he stole the team. Nah, not really. And then couple that with the fact that if you ever saw the soundtracks to that game, what was that dude's name? Callahan? The guy who took over for John Gruden, who was on his staff the year before in Oakland. I can't remember his first name, Callahan. But anyway, yeah, apparently he didn't change any of the plays. Because during the game, like you had John Lynch and Derek Brooks coming over to the sideline. They beat the brakes off of him, by the way. Coming back to the sideline like, yeah, it's exactly how you told us it was going to be. we could hear them calling the play, and we knew exactly what it was going to be. Yeah. I don't think Tony Dungy would have known every play. You know what I mean? So it worked out. And Tony Dungy ended up a couple years later getting on with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's first in Indianapolis. So, everybody went home a winner. And John Gruden still, he's still making money off that Super Bowl champion coach John Gruden, killing ESPN for the loot. All right. Now, the second game of yesterday's championship Sunday in the NFL, the Cardinals. They did a Fleece Johnson move on the Cardinals. Yeah, jailhouse rules apply. No grease. They got him. Yeah, they got him. And Cameron Newton did his thing. Like the first quarterback to throw for over 300 yards and have multiple touchdown passes and running. It's like we're watching, and I want people to understand this. You're watching something that no one has ever seen. That no one has ever seen this. You know what I mean? The people who like me who grew up and saw Randall Cunningham, people before me who saw Fran Tarkenton, you know, people of I guess of my age and maybe still somewhat younger who saw Mike Vick. Nothing like this has ever stepped on a football field. Period. And as with most things, it's only going to last a few years. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to remind you guys again that the other people get paid money too. The defenders, they get paid money too. And you give these cats an off season, they start catching up to you. No, or they start trying, I should say that. And what you see with the great ones are the Mannings, the Bradys, seeing guys like Russell Wilson, who's going to be in that same kind of class that Cam is in. Where now that Russell's throwing the ball more, you know, people are gonna start adjusting to that, to the new way they play. It's a little bit hard to adjust in totality during the season, but you get these dudes off seasons, these defensive coordinators and these position coaches, yeah, of course. But the great ones have found ways to stay a step ahead and continue to evolve themselves and figure out the parts of their games that they are lacking in and improve on those things while continuously maintaining the things that they're already good at. You know, it's a tough balance, especially playing the quarterback position. And the fact that and this is something I thought about yesterday too. The season that the Panthers are having this year, first of all, if you thought it was going to be like this, you're a liar. You know, this team was supposed to finish last or close to it. You know, they were fighting in training camp. They lost Kelvin Benjamin. You know, there was no one to throw the football to. Cam didn't have a great season last year. He got his ass beat up last year. So the offensive line wasn't supposed to be that good. And then they went out and got Michael Orr, the blind side, who couldn't find his way while he was in Baltimore. They didn't know if he was a left tackle or a right tackle. So everything wasn't in place. Now, something that did help them, and I want people to remember this happened. Cam plays in the NFC South, right? You tell me the good team in the NFC South, other than the Panthers. I'll hang up and listen, right? He also played, the team played the NFC East. Same situation. Yeah, the Redskins and Kirk Cousins won that division. I rest my case. And they had the AFC South. Once again, I'll hang up and listen. Yeah, who won that damn division? The damn Texans. And they had like 12 people play quarterback this year. So if there was a year that a team with a special player was going to go, I don't know, let's be realistic, 13-3, 14-2. Yeah, it was going to be this year. And it happened to be that team. They didn't need Kelvin Benjamin. They were able to make do with Jericho Cotchery and Theodore Ginn Jr., Ted Ginn, and Devin Funches. And I ain't going to say make do with Greg Olsen, because Greg Olsen he's a nice player. He's a monster. So I'm not going to say make do with that. And fat Mike Tolbert and Jonathan Stewart, who each and every year seems to be getting fatter himself. But, you know, another story for another day. So the things just kind of lined up well. That, coupled with the fact that Cam just came into his own. You know, he and, who was it, Mike Shula? I think Glenn Dorsey's the quarterback coach, former University of Miami quarterback. Glenn Dorsey is the quarterback coach. And basically, it feels like Ron Rivera was like, look, if y'all gonna fire me, I gotta take the governor off of this kid. Can't worry about him getting hurt. He's like a Mack truck throwing the football. I can't worry about that. So if we got to call, like, that stuff is unheard. you don't have called runs for your quarterback because the dudes on the other side of the football field or the football are very angry. And with any opportunity they get to hit the quarterback, they're going to try to cash in totality. Well, it's a little different story with this kid because you hitting him is going to pretty much feel like he's hitting you. Now, I don't really have a lot to say about the Cardinals. They ruined my damn Sunday. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like, if there's only 2 games that I can watch, like, I can't watch the Falcons getting blown out and be like, all right, whatever, I'll just turn the Red Zone channel. It wasn't that option yesterday, so I had to watch that garbage that they put before me. But whatever. So, I'm going to talk about the Panthers, Cam Newton in particular. You know what I mean? Because a lot of things, like, this wasn't something that was destined to be. And I love stories of people who recognize their deficiencies and attack them with a fervence. You know what I mean? And I think it's lazy of people to say, look how many people were wrong about Cam. Well, hold on. No. The things the things that people said about him, the fact that he was a one-year wonder. He showed up at Auburn like a typhoon. He just came out of nowhere. Right? I remember the beginning of that season. If you guys go back with me, at the beginning of that season, it was he, Denard Robinson was tearing it up. And you're thinking to yourself, like, who the hell is this kid at Auburn? Who the hell is this dude? And because I live in the South, they got to see him a lot. And it was like, man, come on, this ain't real. This dude can't be 6'5", 245 playing quarterback. Nah, that ain't the move. But part of the assessment as it pertained to Cam Newton was that, yeah, he only showed up on campus for 1 year. And the fact that he ran a very unconventional offense for Gene Chizik and those boys down there and Gus Malzahn. So trying to translate that raw athleticism, which once again, you've never seen this at the quarterback position, to try to translate that into an NFL quarterback when you're doing an assessment, that's a very, very hard job. It's not something like it's easy to do it today, looking back. Of course, you can't. He's about to be the damn MVP of the league. It's not very hard today, but at that time, like, because now everybody wants to bring back the Sports Illustrated cover when it's had like Blaine Gabbert and whoever else was on, and it was like, who would you choose? Yes, that's a fair question. Because they all had their individual deficiencies. You know what I mean? And some people, thought the white boy was more polished and was more had more upside as a quarterback. There were people who felt like Cam. My one thing about Cam was, because I was actually doing radio at this time, and my thing about him, I was very quick to defend him a lot. And not the fact that I thought he was going to be 1 point the MVP of the league, but the fact that when people were trying to say that the game might be too big for him, I was like, nah, not that dude. Like, if anything, I said the same thing about Jameis Winston. If anything, this dude walks into a room and feels like he owns each and every room he walks into. So, like, the based on the pressure of certain situations, I don't think that dude is going to fold. If he folds for any reason, it's just because he can't catch on. He can't switch his game up enough, and he doesn't fall into the right quote-unquote marriage with the coach and coaching staff that would allow him to succeed. That's the reason he wouldn't succeed, but not because, like, this ain't Vince Young, who, by the way, Vince Young got popped for DWI yesterday. Kind of ironically, that if you're Vince, man, you're looking at the dude who you were supposed to be. You remember that? Remember Vince coming out of Texas was supposed to be the I guess the next evolution of the Mike Vick. Mike Vick's a little bit smaller, still fast, had the big arm, not that accurate, but it was a feeling that Vince might not be as fast, but he's fast and he's quick and he's bigger. And he has a big arm too. So he was supposed to be the next evolution. Like, this is what we were supposed to had seen out of Vince. But just like I'm talking about with Cam Newton, you find out very quickly what Vince was made of upstairs. You know, when I heard that dude say that he lost his damn mind because he had never been booed before, I was like, what? What? Yeah, almost made me say the N-word just now. I was like, what? Now, the what isn't because I'm surprised he'd never been booed, because, of course, this dude been a top athlete from the time he could probably hold a football and been coddled as such, right? But at what point don't you think that it's a possibility that at some point you won't play that well and these crazy idiot fans would boo you? And the fact that he wasn't prepared to handle that told you a lot about who Vince Young was, man. You know, and then there was a situation with Jeff Fisher, didn't really want him. Then the rumor was that he wanted Matt Leinart, who, you know how that turned out too. But I guess, I'm guessing totally, I don't have any inside information, but to see what Cam did yesterday and know that you should have been that guy. You know, Pro Bowl, first year out the box, right? I mean, and we'll get into this whole Pro Bowl thing later. You know, that's why you can never, like, if you want to argue someone's greatness, don't bring up their Pro Bowl appearances, because it's flawed. You know what I mean? You can have a Pro Bowl appearance without anybody voting your ass in, because everybody bow out of it. Everybody's like, I ain't going to that crap, whatever. I've been to Hawaii 3 times. I don't need to go no more. So, you know, the Pro Bowl thing is ridiculous, and that's how Vince got into the Pro Bowl, by the way. It's like 10 quarterbacks said they wasn't going. It was like, who's next? Vince? All right, come on, Vince. You know what I mean? He ended up in the Pro Bowl. Not to take away anything from the way he played and the way that team played for him in his rookie season after he took over for, I think it was Kerry Collins, right? But anyway, back to Cam. So, you remember when Cam was coming out in the draft? You know, he went through the thing at Auburn with the money situation. I remember I asked his dad about that when we saw him. We got to talk to him on air. I asked his dad about it, and you know, there was this belief that, you know, his dad, if you believe his dad just took the bullet for him or his dad took the money. Anyway, his dad said he took the money. You know what I mean? So it should have been the case closed in, and Cam knew nothing about it. And the fact of the matter was, it wasn't even from a team, from a school, it was from Mississippi State, so it wasn't from Auburn. So it's case closed. But so many people still held that over his head, you know, going into the draft, like it was some sort of criminal. Like, even if he would have taken the money, like, it was what, like $30,000? How much you think Cam was worth to Auburn? Just that year. Let's call it for that year. How much you think he was worth to that year? And I know we get into a whole different subject matter when we kind of get to this topic. But so even if it was, right? Yeah, it may be against a stupid NCAA rule, but it's not illegal. He's not a criminal. You know what I mean? And people say, what about at Florida? All right. If I started telling stories about me in college and doing, you know, felonious things, yeah, we'd be here for a while, you know? So, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. You know what I mean? So the people who try to get on their high horse and start playing, you know, Mr. Morality or Mrs. Morality, stop. Choke yourself and then stop. You know what I mean? So then coming out in the draft, Pro Football Weekly, there's a guy who worked for them. His name was Nolan Naraki, right? And Nolan Naraki had some very, very, people called him unfair things to say about Cam Newton. Why is it so small? I need to open it up in a different window. All right, here it is. I'm just kind of going back in time a little bit here. I think this was in 2011, right? Some of the things he said was, quote, very disingenuous, has a fake smile, comes off as very scripted, and has a selfish me-first makeup, end quote. Now, here's the thing about that. And I said this because we had a debate about this on my previous show and when we were doing the radio version of the show. You start listening to things that this guy had gone through or had happened to him, right? Heisman Trophy winner, national champion. He's projected at this point to be the first pick overall in the NFL draft. Like, even if you are a person who gives off a disingenuous smile, like, you would think after those things happen to you, your smile would be pretty genuine. You know what I mean? And somebody had to pay you a lot of money to stop smiling at that point. Like, they had a better year than anyone else. Like, I'm 39 years old. I don't think I've ever had a better year than that. at anything. You know, I know I haven't. So when you start making those type of critiques on someone, that had nothing to do with football. I guess you could say it does when you start talking about somebody who's going to be a quarterback having a me first makeup. Well, we've seen now over time those things has either changed or they weren't true to begin with. See, that's the thing we got to kind of try to avoid too. You know, we got to avoid saying that those kind of statements were out and out false. When, I don't know about you, I don't know Cam Newton. I didn't know him then. I don't know him now. I know what I see on TV, and they seem to be false now, because it could just be a situation of a guy who took certain critiques to heart and said, you know what, I need to be better. And as a matter of fact, he did. After that season they had a couple years ago, and he was getting beat up real bad for pouting in the press conferences, and he said something about, I don't know what's wrong. Maybe we should put a suggestion box out here and all. And people was killing him. They had my man Matt today. He posted one of the pictures of Cam like ripping his shirt open. There's like a Hello Kitty T-shirt up under it, not the Superman logo. Like, yeah, he went through it. And coming back the next season, in the offseason, he was talking about, he was very verbal about it, that he wanted to be a better leader to his football team. And again, I can only commend that. People who aren't too locked in and too stubborn to understand that I do have a deficiency in this particular area. But the fact that I recognize it means that I can now rectify it. And he did that. You see him now. Yesterday he had shoes with all his teammates' names on them. How about that? Getting back here to Nolan the Rocky. He also says, quote, he always knows where the cameras are and plays to them. Has an enormous ego with a sense of entitlement that continually invites trouble and makes him believe he is above the law. See, here we go with that legal stuff again. Continuing, he says, does not command respect from teammates and will always struggle to win a locker room. That didn't happen. Lacks accountability, focus, and trustworthiness. Is not punctual, seeks shortcuts, and sets a bad example. Immature, and has had issues with authority. Not dependable, end quote. Like, see, those type of things, yeah, I'm not really cool on that. I wasn't cool at the time, and I'm not cool on it now. Now, when you start digging that deep, one would assume that you know the person. And in this case, that's not true. You don't know him. And you say you got information from other people, but Cam is a person who you can see him as a person that would in fact invite jealousy. And those sound like some of the things that jealous people would say. I'm just saying. So sometimes you gotta look towards the source. Who are you getting your information from? How much time have you spent around the kid? You know what I mean? He said something yesterday, and I'm going to go to break here in a second. I'm going to come back and continue this conversation. He said something yesterday during this press conference that I loved. And everyone only took a part of it because they asked him about his coaching staff, about Shula and Coach Rivera. And he said his overall point was that they weren't just coaches. They were good men and good role models, and they were father figures. But before he said that, he prefaced it by saying, now, I'm not like a lot of guys. I got a father at home. And I was like, my man. See, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And I've always talked about. Like when Derek Brooks was like, yeah, I'll mentor Jameis Winston. Wait a minute. Jameis got a daddy in his life. Like, who said he needed you, homeboy? And I'm so glad Cam, because it wasn't a diss. It was just bringing up the reality. Like, look, like you might look at me and know where I come from and feel like I'm one of these broken home kids. But I'm not. My family was very nuclear. Mom, dad, he got his brother, he got him. I think he got a little brother too. And I was so glad he did that because so many people thrive off of that. And they did it today, all on ESPN. Yeah, see, Cam was talking about how much of a father figure he has in Ron Rivera, and he did not say that. He was talking about the rest of his teammates, the guys who don't have a dad at home. He said it just like that. But, the meat machine that is ESPN is just going to spit it at you the way they want you to have it and let you gobble it up like a baby bird. Anyway, it's One Mic with Big Mike. We're going to take a break. First hour down, we're going to come back and finish up this Cam Newton conversation. But then I got to get into what the Atlanta Falcons are doing, man. It's some weird-ish, man, going on with the home team, man. And some of my Falcons fans weren't really happy about it, man. So we're going to talk about that here coming up. Don't forget I'm being heard on Spreaker.com and the Spreaker app. Make sure you guys sign up for your free accounts and follow my show at the number 1 MIC, WITHBIGMIKE. And also on Twitter and Instagram, same handle. And on Facebook, my page that you can like is at ONEMIC, WITHBIGMIKE.
I heard on the news about that 5-year-old who found his uncle's gun. The kid didn't know it was loaded.
I heard on the news about that 14-year-old girl who was bullied online for like a year. She couldn't take it anymore, so she got her dad's gun from his nightstand.
I heard on the news about that guy who broke into someone's house, stole a gun from the hall closet.
He accidentally shot his cousin in the head.
She killed herself.
And later, killed the owner of the store he was trying to rob.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Terry Crews. Actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
One mic.
All I need is one mic.
What's the name of the show?
One mic with Big Mike.
You know, ain't nobody getting hurt, ain't nobody. You know, there's no crime being committed.
And they say his style is too urban for the radio.
This is real life stuff that's happened to me.
Well, you know what?
You, and you.
One mic with Big Mike.
I like to be able to do what I want to do.
A sports talk show, but no subject matter is off limits.
Meek Mill's concert is not called the Hell Yeah I Bang Khloe Kardashian concert.
And now, your host.
Put your hands together for the one, the only
Big Mike.
All I need is one mic.
Hour number 2 here on One Mic with Big Mike. Appreciate you guys for joining me. Appreciate my guy Matt for hopping in the chat room. You guys can do that as well by just going to Spreaker, SPREAKER.com, or the Spreaker app for your Windows, Apple, or Android device, and hop on in. Just search for my show, the number 1 MIC, WITHBIGMIKE, One Mic with Big Mike. You can also use that same handle for Twitter and Instagram, and follow me or like my Facebook page at ONEMIC, WITHBIGMIKE, One Mic with Big Mike. Start the hour, the show off, actually. We've been talking football the whole time, but we started with the early game yesterday, Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. I guess maybe I should say Von Miller and the Denver Broncos taking down the New England Patriots, the last year's champion. That's another thing I don't say. I don't say defending champions when it comes to like football and basketball because it's ridiculous. You only defend your championship in like boxing and MMA and things like that, because if that were the case, the next team that beats you wins the championship, and that's not what happens as far as I know. I know it sounds, a-hole-ish, but that's what I am. Then we kind of got into the second game yesterday, and the game leaves really nothing to talk about. But the players in the game, and one player in particular, Cam Newton, he leaves a lot to talk about, and it's going to be interesting to see how these 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl kind of pan out. How they play out and the type of information that's gotten out of guys like Cam Newton, and everybody's going to be waiting on Josh Norman to say something, which, for what it's worth, miss me with that. Just bring the game on. let's play the game, and let me get my football season over with, and then have my couple of hours in the morning before I get, deep down into basketball. Like right now, watching some college basketball right now. Look, missed shots, transition layup. That's what basketball is, and missed free throws. That's college basketball, regular season college basketball, and to a little bit lesser level, tournament basketball. But then, we're talking about Cam Newton and some of the early years before this year, before everyone fell in love with Cam Newton, and everyone professes to be a lifelong fan of Cam Newton because they knew this was going to happen. You're a lie. You didn't know it was going to happen. There was no way to know it was going to happen. You know what I mean? Things had to work out well for Cam. Because he did have a dip in performance the last couple of years, in case anyone wasn't looking. Like, this hasn't been a consistent thing. When he came out the box and broke the rookie passing record, first game out the box, and it was like, oh, damn, maybe this kid gets it. Because remember, like, one of the things that a lot of you guys were laughing at, and my former co-host, Rob Calloway, was one of those guys laughing at Cam Newton on Camp Gruden. The thing with John Gruden. He sits down with the quarterback prospects from that particular year, and they break down film and these type of things. And John Gruden, he put the man in a real precarious situation when he says to him, he says something to the nature of, give me one of those play calls at Auburn or whatnot. Give me something you guys call in the huddle. And Cam just kind of had like the deer in the headlights look like, we really ain't had that going on. You know what I mean? And everyone felt like, a lot of people, not everyone, a lot of people felt like he didn't have a football acumen. He was dumb at football. And the equivalent I gave was, let's say you went to South America and somebody just dropped you off and they gave you a manual, but it's written in Portuguese or whatever. How well are you going to do with that until you find someone to teach you the language? Same thing with him. He was in a different world at Auburn where they're doing hand signals and pictures and all this kind of stuff. There's a different world. So when you ask them to give you a play call and they didn't have play calls, it's going to look like that. And again, I kept reiterating the fact, like, that's not the reason this kid isn't going to fail, or the kid is going to fail. Like, if he fails, it will be because he gets frustrated. We saw it with Vince Young once again. He'll get frustrated with the situation and continue to want to do things the way he's always done them and not wanting to improve. You don't see that with Cam Newton. That's the one thing that you haven't seen with him. Like, this dude, he's taken a lot of his lumps in stride, and he's now come out on the other end. And if things go right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have it's going to be like 2, 3, 4 years of this, of him playing at this crazy level before, father time. Because, the kid, he's big, yeah, but he's still getting hit. And the more they ask him to throw the football, the more opportunities you get to hit him in awkward positions, with his body in awkward positions where he can't brace for the hits. And those type of things lead to injury. So, and I'm not wishing this on him, but it's one of those things that you gotta anticipate happening because it is the norm. With great players, you always see this bell curve. You see this real high level of play, and then hopefully, when they do start to dip, it only dips to a certain level. You see it right now with Tom Brady. Let's put him in that category right now. Like, at one point, Tom Brady, he was up there with had those Peyton Manning, Drew Brees numbers. But now he's changed. Things have changed. Personnel has changed, and he's kind of on a plateau. He's kind of plateaued now. There's like this Tom Brady a level of play that's just reserved for him right now. And then at a certain point, he'll be like Peyton Manning, just fall off the damn cliff like Peyton Manning did this year. You kind of see it coming, but then what'll happen is what happened to Peyton Manning this year. You're like, damn, I saw it coming, but I ain't see it like that. Because he started getting a little bad last year, and they blamed it on the thigh injury and all this kind of stuff. But this year, it was like, damn, every other pass he threw was a damn interception. You know what I mean? When he professed to be healthy, and then eventually find out he had like plantar fasciitis in his foot and all that kind of stuff. But back to Cam Newton. And here's the part of here's some of the negatives as it relates to his on-field stuff from Nerlin Naraki. I think is his name, Nolan the Rocky. He says he played in a simplified run-first, dive option read offense with very basic high-low reads. That is true. That's not an opinion. That is actually a fact. He worked exclusively out of the gun and was very quick to run at first flash of coverage. Again, something that can't be denied. It's on film. Limited field vision, does not process the passing game, inconsistent throwing mechanics, and a flick delivery. Okay, I want to address two things here. Same thing. When you're in college, and people try to do this with Urban Meyer, like, you don't want to get no Urban Meyer a quarterback. He don't prepare his quarterbacks for the NFL. You know what Urban Meyer's job is to do? Win ball games in college. I'm saying he's not preparing kids for the NFL. If it so happens that Cardale Jones becomes a Hall of Fame quarterback in the NFL, he just does. But it's not because Urban Meyer put a conscious effort into making Cardale Jones a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I mentioned him because he's kind of in the same situation as a Tom Brady, a guy who kind of split time and kind of got benched for a little while in those kind of situations. Had a flash in the pan the year before, winning a national championship. Obviously, Tom Brady didn't do that, but you get my point, right? Matt says, if I was betting, would I go Denver or Carolina? If I was betting, I'm always bet for the better quarterback. It's Cam Newton. Cam Newton's the best. Like that. That's pretty much. I don't bet. But if I did, that would be my philosophy. Like, which of these two teams got the best quarterback? And I'm gonna pick them because even let's take these two teams. I think the defenses kind of cancel each other out. So now what are you looking at? Yeah, you're looking at the quarterback position, first and foremost. And I'm going to take Cam Newton right now in his prime over Peyton Manning, who's like, please just let this be over so I can go home and continue to hide my HGH use, you know what I mean, and do Papa John's commercials and own half of the Tennessee Titans. You know what I mean? Let me just leave. So, yeah. What else was I saying about this kid? Oh, and there's this thing now, too, about yesterday on Twitter and Instagram, people and Facebook, people were talking about, mechanics and doing things the right way don't matter. That's a lie. Yeah, that type of thing is a lie. And if you want to believe that, here's why you shouldn't. Because at a certain point, like Cam Newton is an exceptional. He's the exception to pretty much every rule athletically. But at one point in his life, he won't be anymore. He'll be slower. You know what I mean? And when those things happen, you need to be able to revert back to good mechanics. This is what Tom Brady talks about. The fact that you don't really see that, like I just got to talk about, you don't see that much of a drop-off in Tom Brady's performance because he works on those tedious things. Like people say, it doesn't matter. Tim Tebow has that long release. Of course it does. It doesn't matter that Cam Newton throws it off his back foot. Yeah, it does. Maybe not today. But if we and the people who like watching Cam want to see his career be sustained over a long period of time, those things do matter. You know what I mean? Because now he don't have to step in the throw the damn ball through somebody's chest. But inevitably he will need to. His mechanics will have to be intact. So all this foolishness about, like somebody said, hey, you give me a quarterback that's having a seizure. If he can get it there, you're an idiot. And I know that's very hyperbolic. The example is hyperbolic. But what the overall point is that good mechanics don't matter. That's ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. Matt's bringing up Kobe Bryant talking about AAU basketball. He hated because they don't teach people fundamentals, right? And then it forces everyone else to change their perspective on what good basketball is. Like the idiots who want to change that hacking rule because a few douchebags don't want to hit free throws. Whatever, man. Be a pro. Be a damn professional. You know what I mean? And I heard, like, who was it? Jackie McMullen talking about, these guys can get in the gym all they want to, and they won't improve their free throws. How you know? And I'm not just talking about because she's a woman. I'm just saying how you know if they haven't done it. Because I've seen dudes who have done it. Karl Malone, terrible free throw shooter when he got into the league. You know what he did? Shot a bunch of free throws and got better. Blake Griffin, he was only a dunker. He was the guy who I used to always reference being a manufactured superstar because all he did was dunk. But then you know what Blake Griffin did? He went back to the lab and formed a game. Nice little mid-range jump shot, can turn his back to the basket a little bit, and he improved his free throw shooting. Like, if all these people are going to go after you and start beating you up at the rim, make them pay with points. So the whole Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, and DeAndre Drummond, or what's the boy name? DeAndre Drummond, these boys who can't hit free throws, I'm good. No rule need to be changed for TV. Whatever. If that's the case, put them on the bench. You tired of your player getting fouled, put them on the bench. So, yeah, Kobe's right. Because those are the things, like, we always talk about how under pressure situations, you revert to who you really are, right? This is why Tim Tebow would never make it in the NFL, because he'd go out in the summertime and work with the quarterback guru and all these kind of craziness. But you know what's not happening? Julius Peppers isn't chasing him while he's out there with that dude. So, yeah, his form and his delivery might be so great. But, yeah, when he gets back under center, he's going to revert to the thing he's done for the last, 15, 20 years of his life. This is why it's so important to train like muscle memory, to continuously train your body to do the right things. So don't be no fool and thinking that, because that's what people thought about Vince Young. Another Vince Young example. That sidearm, well, that's the way he throws the football. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, you know what Vince is doing right now? Getting ready for a court trial, a court case for DWI, not playing in the NFL. Yeah, it's certain things, man, and it's us. It's us that we want to always let our kids. You ever been to a little league football game or baseball game? The kid that's most athletic and with the most talent gets coached and instructed the least. What? That's ridiculous. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Teach your kids to do stuff the right way so they don't have to always lean on their athleticism. Because once it goes, then what do you have? Like Tom Brady's still killing kids. First of all, he never had athleticism. But he's still killing the game because he understands how important footwork and mechanics and those type of things are to his success, to his relative success, no matter how much older he's getting. It is what it is. Going back here to Nolan Naraki and the things he said way back in, I guess, 2011 about Cam Newton. He goes on to say he generates all of his power from his upper body strength and too often arms the ball, which means when you start just arming the football, you lose accuracy. And you see it a lot of times with Cam. When he does that like fadeaway thing, the ball ends up sailing on him. And especially when he fades away and doesn't have to because of pressure. Like that offensive line yesterday. Like if anybody wanted to start giving out credit for stuff, man, they kept that dude nice and clean in that pocket, man. Like to where he's pumping and going from like second to third reads on the route. What? Hey, this is the NFL, cuz. Like he was taking his time back there. And good for him, man. He's making the right reads. But, the one thing that's that Denver is going to want to do and try to do is speed his process up. See if you can speed his process up and get him to throw you a couple of them. Because the one time that it happened yesterday, that's exactly what happened. He ended up throwing one to Patrick Peterson. He talks about him being a streaky passer, spotty accuracy, makes his receivers work hard, and throws in the coverage. See, these are all things that he's corrected. You know what I mean? Over time, working with Glenn Dorsey and the other guys that he and Mike Shula. These are things that he's recruited. And don't forget, Rob Chudzinski was there the first year too to help him with that kind of stuff as well. And here's another thing I remember saying about Luol Deng. No, the African with the Luol Deng, the African. Matt's mentioning Luol Deng scouting report, the Danny Ferry one about the cheap, the good stuff in the back room. I still think that's funny. And that dude shouldn't have got fired for that crap either. Whatever, man. But yeah. The one thing I do remember saying this about Cam when he was coming out. If you wanted to look at anything as a positive for him, was the fact that he was a blank canvas. And if the right people got around him, and in that first year, remember, it was Rob Chizensky. You say, who is Rob Chizensky? He's now the offensive coordinator with the Indianapolis Colts. But before then, he was with the before then he was the head coach for a year with the Browns, and before then he was Cam's coach with the Panthers. But he's also a Norv Turner disciple, which we all know Norv Turner, not the best head coach, but works miracles with quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks. So Chizensky helped Cam. That first game you saw out of him when he threw for like those 400 yards in that first game, yeah, that had to do with some coaching, man. That didn't just happen because he's just so naturally gifted, which he is, but not that gifted. He shows up the first time out the box against grown men and it's like, yeah, this is pretty damn easy. Nah. So yeah, the thing you got all these quarterbacks, right? Is a pretty blank slate, but Cam more so, because again he played at Auburn, where he was just running around a lot. When the opportunity presented itself, he had a lot of one-on-one coverage against college football players. Didn't have to read a lot of coverages and those type of things. So if he was open when he got to the league and understood that he had those deficiencies and didn't have everything figured out, yeah, the sky was gonna be the limit. Because already he was more physically gifted than anybody else, anyone of us has ever seen. This has always been my beef when it came down to that whole Mike Vick thing, and everyone used to always say, Mike Vick can never be Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. And I was always think, like, maybe not, but he should be better. Because at the end of the day, he get out of bed with something that they don't. When it comes down to it, they just work harder than him. And we ended up finding out later on in his career, post-jail sentence, that those things were true, that he admitted as such, that he didn't work hard. And now you're looking at the culmination of both things coming into fruition. The guy who's more physically gifted than anyone else on the football field at any given time, but at the quarterback position still has the mental acumen to beat you from the pocket as well. Like I say, man, just enjoy it. Enjoy it while you can, because like with anything, greatness is fleeting. It won't be around forever. So I'm basically talking to the revisionists, the people who feel like they saw this coming all the way. No, you didn't. You didn't. There was no way to. That's why when I see those memes of Steph Curry and they talking about how everybody was wrong about Steph Curry, nobody wrong about Steph Curry. All those things are true. He was too small to be a shooting guard in the NFL and lanky. His ball handling wasn't what you needed for a point guard. All those things were true, which is the reason he stayed in school another year. And this is the reason that he worked so damn hard at those elements, at becoming a point guard and dribbling the basketball. He was very frail when he got into the league, constant injuries with the foot and the ankles. Yeah. Like, didn't nobody, and then the other thing about it is he still got picked 7th overall. So it wasn't like this dude went undrafted and then it's like, God, look at this kid, undrafted, and now he's the MVP. No, he was still a lottery pick. So when you start talking about people, this ain't Tom Brady getting drafted like 199. No, like the Steph Curry 6 is literally 6 picks. with Tom Brady is 6 rounds of people, and quarterbacks being picked in 6 rounds. Yeah, so like, instead of trying to make people look stupid or you being smarter than the people who get paid to do a certain job, understand at certain times the lesson should be open to criticism. Realize your shortcomings, and once you recognize them, fix them. Work your ass off to rectify them and fix them, and realize your full potential at whatever it is that you do. In Steph Curry's case, it's basketball. In Cam Newton's case, it's football. But in whatever else you do, don't always look at somebody else's situation on the outside looking in like, man, everybody was wrong about that dude. quite the different, quite the contrary. It's like if you guys used to look at Jenny Jones back in the day, the talk show, and like there'd be this chick out there and she got like eyelashes on and fake boobs and weave in her hair, and like she was the ugly duckling in high school, and now she wants to bring some dude out to say, look at me now and all this. And I was always the one to say she probably need to be thanking that dude. Like if you're so proud of yourself right now because you blossomed into a porn star, okay, cool, be proud, but understand what the catalyst was. The fact that dude let you know that you was ugly as hell made you want to change. And you did. So really, you should be trying to get that dude something after the show, if you know, as a form of gratitude or something. Yeah, you shouldn't be mad at this cat. Yeah, he chastised you into becoming what you consider to be a better person physically. When in reality, a lot of times you look at them bras, you be like, yeah, I can see past the weave and the fake contacts. You're still that person. You put some glasses on right now and some damn Janet Jackson braids, same chick. You know what I mean? And take them boobs out, get back to that B cup. Same path right now. But yeah, same thing with these athletes. Don't always feel like, because that's that dumbness that ESPN want to pump into you. You know, look at how wrong these people were back in the day. Not necessarily. Now about the personal stuff, leave it out. You know what I mean? And while some of it may come into play, because if you got a dude that's playing quarterback, it's like Johnny Manziel, right? There's pictures of him still getting his party on in Dallas. A kid that's just very, very, that doesn't have a lot of self-awareness. I was going to say self-unaware, but sounds better for me to say he doesn't have a lot of self-awareness. And he's also another kid, when you start talking about, like, think about this scouting report I'm reading. You know what I mean? Well, this says Cam always knows where the cameras are. It seems like Johnny Manziel never knows where they are. Or, yeah, maybe he does. He just doesn't care because he's always getting caught on tape doing something that he really shouldn't be doing if he's serious about his career, right? But the whole entitlement thing, yeah, of course he is. His parents got oil money and all this kind of Texas money. I don't know if that's a thing. Yeah, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. So if his football career is to end tomorrow, so he's going to go work for daddy and, you know, be a campaign hand or something, you know, something ridiculous and just keep him moving. He'll go back and be a local celebrity at Texas A&M. That's what Vince Young did. Yeah, Vince Young got some kind of job, some type of made-up job, alumni, something or the other. What is it? Let me see what this is. Yeah, they hired Young to work in alumni relations. What the hell is that? You show up at the booster meetings and shake people's hands like, remember me? Remember what I did in the national championship game? That's what that sounds like to me. You go and then smooth with, you know, play golf with former Texas people, University of Texas people. So basically, they hired him as a face. Is what it sounds like to me. But anyway, you know, so coming back, we'll take a break here. Last half hour of the show, kind of sort of. Well, I want to talk to you guys about two things. One, about the Atlanta Falcons. It is officially, it has been for some time now, for a couple weeks now, the offseason for the Atlanta Falcons. And some things didn't happen that a lot of people may have thought should have happened. And some things happened that a lot of people can't figure out why the hell they happened. So I want to do that, and I want to talk about these. I want to talk about this Olympics story as well. Before I get out of here, and we'll do that all coming up next on One Mic with Big Mike.
Hi, I'm Layla Ali. I might be undefeated in professional boxing, but there's one problem even I can't fight alone: childhood hunger. Over 17 million kids in America may not know where their next meal is coming from. That's 1 in 5 children. Yet billions of pounds of surplus food produced right here in America just get thrown out every year. That's more than enough to feed every last hungry child. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to hungry kids before it goes to waste. But they can't do it without your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by going to feedingamerica.org. Together we can knock out hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
To help solve hunger in your community and to find your local food bank, visit feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back to the last half hour of the show. One Mic with Big Mike. Once again, I am Big Mike. I appreciate everyone for joining me tonight on Spreaker.com. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting at 7 p.m. You guys can also download the Spreaker app to your mobile devices, your tablet, or your mobile phone. Don't forget to also follow me on Spreaker and Instagram and Twitter at the number 1 MIC, WITHBIGMIKE. And you guys can like my Facebook page and post to my Facebook page at ONEMIC, WITHBIGMIKE. All right, let's wrap this Cam Newton conversation up so we can get to the Atlanta Falcons real quick, the hometown team here. One last thing I got to say about Cam Newton, and remember where you heard this at. It will turn, and they will turn on him. Like all that stuff about all that giving the footballs away and all how people think it's so cute and all that. Like Cam is not. He don't come across to me as a dumb cat that's not aware of who he is and where he's from, College Park, Georgia, in case you don't know. And the things he has to do and needs to do to be accepted by a certain realm in America, which is why you don't ever see Cam. You rarely see him at these press conferences unless it's like after practice. But after the game, that dude is suited and booted, for show. That whole thing about giving those balls away to those kids. I said this yesterday on Twitter. And not to be that guy, but of course I am that guy. That he's not giving a sick kid a kidney. Like you can assume that they're pretty affluent children. Their parents do pretty well. So them coming to the game and leaving without a football, or even if they get one, I don't think it's going to make or break anything past that particular day. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. That being said, it makes everybody feel better. It makes the NFL feel better. It makes the people who, like the white people who defend Cam, it makes them feel better because that's the first thing they want to bring up. Like, but what about the footballs? What about them? Like, as if he didn't do that, dabbing in the end zone would then be, they would then be appalled about the dabbing in the end zone and the dancing and all the first down things that he does. You know what I mean? I just pointed out the things that certain people seemingly have to do in order to get the common acceptance that they deserve. It's outstanding to me. It's weird as hell. Speaking of weird, okay, the Atlanta Falcons right here in the old hometown, the ATL, had a pretty rough season. Now, full disclosure, I don't profess to be, and I am not a Falcons fan. You know what I mean? They just happen to be, my home squad, so I do support the team. I do want the team to do well because a lot of people I know are Falcons fans. And, life seems to be better for them when the Falcons do better. I heard Matt say one time after the Falcons lost, and it kind of just put things into perspective for me. He was like, "Damn, now I got to be homeboy at work tomorrow." I was like, "What? Wait, what?" So that's what it's all about. Presumably, at least as far as Matt's concerned, that the Falcons win so that I can crush anyone in my path for the next 6 days until the next game comes. Which, whatever. I've always talked about it. People here are both things. They're the worst winners and the worst losers when it comes to the sports teams. Like, when the Falcons win, it's like the Super Bowl has been won. when they lose, it's like the team is moving to Calcutta. You know what I mean? They'll never be seen again. It's like this wide river in between the good and the bad reaction. There's no middle ground at all. Very little perspective comes into play. And, I guess that's what it is to be a fan. You let your emotions roller coaster with the team. But the Atlanta Falcons offseason, the Atlanta Falcons offseason start. I'm just reading Matt's his stuff in the chat room here. Their offseason started actually even before the damn regular season was over with, if you want to be honest with yourself. And as with each and every year, they have to come back, as all teams do, except for, all teams. All 32 teams have to, when their season is over, whenever that may be, they got to take an assessment of the things that are good, things that are bad, things that should be changed, things that should remain the same. And for the Atlanta Falcons, they went with the things that should remain the same. As far as Thomas Dimitroff goes, he was able to retain his position. Now, I don't know if you guys heard me mention this on MLK Day. I don't remember his name to save my life, but one of the Falcons' head scouts, black dude, they fired him on MLK Day, or I think the day before MLK Day. Maybe they saved him that. But he was actually the first Lionel, or in the black community, Lionel Vital. He was, what was he? He was the scout, what? Oh, the national scout to director of player personnel. He was the director of player personnel, sorry. I was reading it wrong. He was the director of player personnel, so he's the guy who got the axe as far as the front office guys go. Now, to the coaching staff, you didn't really expect to see too many changes in the coaching staff. This is the first year of this coaching staff, so everything you could pretty much expect to be status quo. But except today, Jerome Henderson was hired. You say, who was Jerome Henderson? Okay, good. Glad you asked. Jerome Henderson was the Cowboys defensive backs coach last year. And if you saw the Cowboys defensive backs play last year, you wonder, what the hell? But, one man's trash could be another man's treasure. And the same thing goes with teams, I guess. His contract was up with the Cowboys, so there was they had to ask no permission or any of that type of situation. Apparently, the Cowboys weren't in any hurry to try to re-sign him anyway, because, again, did you see the Cowboys secondary last year or this past season? So, anyway, he's now check this out. This is my first time hearing of this. He is the passing game coordinator on defense. That's wild, right? Yeah. That's like a different, because I've heard about the passing game coordinator. That's something that's kind of risen in the last couple of years, the passing game coordinator. But now there is a passing coordinator on defense. Weird. Jerome Henderson. He was another guy whose name came up in the token interview, Rooney Rule situation as well. But while doing that, now how long has Raheem Morris been here? Last time I saw Raheem Morris, he was in Washington, after being fired in Tampa after 2 years, after replacing John Gruden. But did he just get hired here and not it missed me? But anyway, Raheem Morris, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach, he was like 31 years old or something crazy like that when he was the head coach there. Wasn't really ready for it, because once the emotion and all the hype man speeches got down, like some of those dudes with mortgages and families and struggling businesses was like, what you gonna do to get us better, dude? You gonna rah us to death? So that was his demise. But anyway, he's here now, and like I just mentioned, he was the defensive backs coach in Washington. Before that, he was the head coach in Tampa Bay. Before that, he was the defensive coordinator in Tampa Bay. You see where I'm going with this? There's a pattern here. But apparently, the Falcons are smarter than everyone else. They're moving him to offense. Yes. He'll be coaching the wide receivers this year for the Falcons. Yeah, that's happening. I don't know. I don't know how, why. Yeah, I don't know. And to like put the cherry on top of the cake here, yeah, Raheem Morris has no experience, none, either as a player or a coach on the offensive side of the football. Now, you remember when that happened, the last time we saw that happen, that I can remember it happening, was in Philadelphia. When Andy Reid made Juan Castillo his defensive coordinator, and Juan Castillo was like an offensive line coach or something, and then he put Trent Cole and Jason Babin in those wide nines and had them rushing. But then people kind of figured that out and was like, you know what? There's a big run lane right there. Let me just run the ball. And things just turned out bad. That's the year they signed Nnamdi Asomugha. He had Nnamdi Asomugha, who was a decent corner in Oakland, playing a lot of zone coverage. A lot of press man coverage. And he decided that this dude needed to play safety. Yeah, ended his career. But he's all right. He's married to Kerry Washington, and she's pretty successful at that show that she plays, the President's Side Piece Scandal. My old lady watches that religiously. I can't really get my mind wrapped around it, but whatever. So yeah, this is what's going on with the Atlanta Falcons. Now they have the 17th overall pick in the draft. You know what I meant to do today as well, and I totally forgot to do it. I tweeted it out, or I Facebooked it or whatever. You guys can see it on my Facebook page, ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. You guys can see it there, but it's a list of free agents to be. There's a list of free agents to come up. Free job. You're an ignorant fool. Matt says, I guess he's just giving him a free job. All right, I guess. It's just weird to me. What was I saying? I had a brain fart there. The free agents coming up here. And then, there's certain areas that the Falcons definitely need to address. You know what I mean? I think that number 2 wide receiver, I know people around here love Roddy White, and TMZ called him in the airport in L.A. the other day. He's like, I'm a Falcon for life. Let's slow down. Slow down, because it ain't like you make the decisions, homeboy. And I know people around here have this is the king city for putting athletes in a bubble. Like, for whatever reason, favorite athletes never get bad here. People in my fair city of Atlanta expect people that they love as athletes to remain that same athlete. And the reality is, Father Time is undefeated. And, Father Time is starting to take its toll on Roddy. And it may be time to move on from that. And in some way, shape, or form, get you a number 2 receiver in here. Someone who can take some of that pressure. It was supposed to be this kid from Western Carolina, or Eastern Carolina, Hardy. He came on a little bit late in the season, yeah. Jacob Tamme, I don't think he was necessarily utilized, I'd say, properly. But it definitely wasn't going to be Eric Weems or Devin Hester, none of them dudes. So that's a position you might want to look to if you're a Falcons fan as far as free agency goes. That getting an experienced pass rusher not named Corey Bierman to play opposite Vic Beasley, who apparently he had like a labrum situation that he talked about during the season, but came out today that he won't need surgery. So yeah, you need more people. Let me just say it that way. But an experienced pass rusher outside of him. Speaking of the Falcons, DeMarco, the fullback, and Desmond Trufant have been named as Pro Bowl replacements. So now Falcons fans everywhere can say, oh, look at us. We got 4 Pro Bowlers. Stop it. Stop it. The whole situation is a joke. Even the fact that they moved the Pro Bowl to a week in between the Super Bowl and championship week is ridiculous. Like, I think it's pretty cool when the guys who won the Super Bowl and are playing on the Pro Bowl team can show up, man. And the first people they see are other great players to congratulate them. Now, it may suck for the guys who lost, but whatever. And if it's this year, hell, the damn Broncos only got 1, right? Von Miller's their only Pro Bowler, or is he their only All Pro? I don't know. Either way, doesn't make a difference. But I think that should be the last thing that happens. But Roger Goodell, smarter than every other man in the room, he want to put the Pro Bowl in between championship week and the Super Bowl. I ain't watching that crap. Yeah, ain't no way. You know what? The Senior Bowl. Check that out. Yeah, if you want to look at some football this weekend, I think the Senior Bowl is this weekend. Yeah, get that in your life. That Pro Bowl stuff for the birds. I'm gonna find something else to do. Go out there and pre-treat my lawn or something. You know what I mean? Get a jump on the weeds. Last thing I want to talk about today. We got about 15 minutes max here. I saw something yesterday that was very, very intriguing to me. That I guess starting now, effective immediately, that transgender athletes will be allowed to participate in the Olympics, even without, what is it called? Without surgery, without removing the tidbits. This article from theguardian.com, it says the International Olympic Committee medical officials, not officials, officials said on Sunday they changed the policy to adapt to current scientific, social, and legal attitudes on transgender attitude or transgender issues. I'm sorry. God, I'm such an illiterate turd. Under the previous IOC guidelines approved in 2003, athletes who transitioned from male to female or vice versa were required to have reassignment surgery followed by at least 2 years of hormone therapy in order to be eligible to compete. Female to male transgender athletes eligible to take part in men's competitions without restrictions. So meaning if you were Caitlyn Jenner and you still had your wing wang, well, maybe they wouldn't let you compete in a woman's sport, but you could compete in a men's sport, which that's confusing to me. It's going to take me a while to catch up with society, just my mind to be wrapped around all these things. I don't have no problem with nobody. If you identify yourself as a woman and you want to become a woman, and scientific and medical advancements have gotten to the point where you can do those things, knock yourself out. Go for it. It ain't gonna affect my life one way or the other. But when you get into this stuff now, and I saw this article. I saw this story on I think it was on Real Sports about a girl in India. I think it's in India, and she runs track. And because she's better than everyone else, she's smoking these broads over there, they accuse her of being a man at one point or being born a boy. And everyone that knows her family and everybody, nah, she's always been a girl. She's just better than y'all. But they can't believe it. It's so unbelievable to them that this is the case. So they make this. First of all, they suspended her and told her she can't play. And then she don't even look like she's not a manly figure. She's not like a big, huge, muscular being. She's just a little short, petite girl. But she just happens to be better than everyone else. And I think it's India. You guys got HBO Go and On Demand and all this kind of crazy. You guys can find it for yourself on Real Sports. But then they show her an international competition, against broads from here, those I don't know, Dawn somebody's, the broads who run here, right? The sprinters here, yeah, getting dusted, getting totally smoked. But still, they don't believe in that. So anyway, my point is this. They've kind of gone from, shaming women by making them have these gender, what was it called? It's called gender verification. Yeah. They used to conduct gender verification tests at the Olympics. And from what I understand, they were very, very, just off board and very, very intrusive, trying to make sure women women weren't born men. And they didn't do it for men, though. They didn't do it to see if a man was born a woman. They only did it for women. And that's what made it kind of extra creepy, too. But then these tests were deemed, after 2000, yeah, that long, they were deemed unscientific and unethical. I don't know how to necessarily, I don't know what to think about this. My biggest question is has the pendulum just kind of swung all the way to the left now, where, so that you're not ostracized, you have to give off the appearance like everybody's welcome. When in reality, it's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Because even with like the little loopholes in there where like some, I don't even know what to say, chick, I guess that's the more politically correct way if you identify yourself as a woman. Like a woman who's not quite physically a woman is like in the starting blocks next to Mitch Green. Mitch Green probably like 90 years old. That's the last sprinter I know though. You know what I mean? And can be running the same race. Or in, what is another summer Olympic sport? Like boxing. They still do boxing in the Olympics? I don't know, because I don't care that much about the Olympics. But I know they say that one of the goals in doing this is to try to have it spread throughout other sports. And it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like for example, if there was like an openly transgender, I don't know, coach in the NBA or Major League Baseball or whatever, like, I don't know. I don't know if you feel any type of way about it. It's just what it is. But competing against, like, a woman competing against another woman, and I guess, like, the science says that after a certain time of you getting the hormone treatments, your body then begins to be physically a woman's body as well. And that's the part I'm kind of gray on, because I don't understand all that stuff. You know what I mean? I don't understand how foolproof the science is on it, and I don't know. But I don't believe, like, this is what I do believe, just fundamentally at the baseline of everything, that everybody don't get to have everything. Like, at certain times, you make choices in your life, right? Like, if somebody came to me right now and said, you know what, we want to pay you $1 million to talk about sports, but you got to do it in, I don't know, South Dakota. Right? And I'll probably be like, you mean tell me I can't stay here and just do it the way I'm doing it right now? No, we need you at the place in South Dakota. It's $1.5 million. All right. I'm going to go, but when I get there, I can't expect it to be Atlanta. I've made a decision that caused for me to have a certain amount of sacrifice intertwined within it. So the same thing for me. Like, if you're a 6'10" dude at birth, well, you were born a dude and you end up being like a 6'10" athlete, because there's a story about this too. Like, this 42-year-old now woman, born a man, is playing college basketball. Like, first of all, there's a problem with the age, one, and then two, like, I don't know how that works. But it seems my overall point is that in life, you make the decision, to have gender, whatever, to get maybe some boobs, or, like, I guess Caitlyn Jenner got her Adam's apple shaved. Now, to do all these things to become a woman, or to be seen as a woman, or the other way, either way, it would just seem practical that you understand that you're giving up certain things. I don't know. And I'm not sure how the commentary makes me look, and I don't really care. You know what I mean? I believe in people. I believe that good people are good people and bad people are bad people, no matter what gender you are, what gender you associate with, or you would like to be identified as, whatever race, whatever, anything, religion. Bad people are bad people and good people are good people. Now, some people are bad people based on certain things, as well as some people are good people based on other things and other external things. So I'm just confused. You know what I mean? And I'm not afraid to say it. Like, a lot of people are. A lot of people are confused, but they feel like they have to, as was put in a New York Times article a couple of weeks ago, you have to belong to that cult of everybody. You have to go along to get along. Not me. Like, I need answers. I want to ask questions. I want to figure out, don't I agree with this thing? Because a lot of times we're so quick to disagree with something because we don't understand it, rather than ask questions and admit that we're ignorant in the subject. And right now, I'm ignorant about how the whole transgender thing works, or is it transgender? Like, I was looking at some movie the other day, old Michael Douglas movie, and Robert Downey Jr. was in it, and it was called Toby. What's the kid that played the first Spider-Man? Tobey Maguire. He was in it too. What's the other chick's name? Anne Hathaway. It's like an older movie because they were both young. That's how I knew it was old. But there was a well, I guess what now we would call transgender, but he kept on saying the transvestite. You know she's a transvestite, right? You know that's a transvestite. And I was like, which one is that still like something that's acceptable? Like, I just realized that, not even realized, I was just informed by a buddy of mine. He's a pastor up in Maryland. And he was talking about how they had the summit at his church to try to, have open dialogue with the LGBTQ community. And I was like, well, the what? He's like, yeah, it's LGBTQ. And I was like, what the hell is a Q? He was like, queer. And I was like, I thought you couldn't say that. I thought that was one of the things that's like off the table. You can't say queer. He's like, nah, apparently people identify as queer. And I was like, well, how is that different from being gay? Because that's the way you would use it. You call somebody queer, you call them gay, right? And like, this is too much right now. Like, too much is going on. Settle down. Like, everybody don't have to have their certain group. Like, if I say something about a fat person, then, some fat organization is going to be like, you know what? You can't do that. That's unfair. That's infringing on my civil rights. Stop being fat then. Or just accept the fact that you are. One or the other. I don't know. It's just weird, man. You know what? I feel myself getting worn out. So I'm gonna end this here and come back on Wednesday and do it all over again. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Appreciate my guy Matt at Only One Mr. Green. You guys can follow him on the old Twitter machine as well. He's a pretty good follow too, because Matt get into some real crazy conversations, and like I found myself at one point kind of getting caught up in some of the ridiculousness that people either reply to him with, or some people like tweet at him, and like now I've become an observer. You know what I mean? I don't really put my 2 cents in a lot of times now because, yeah, it gets weird. The whole Twitter thing is just weird sometimes. But anyway, I appreciate you, Matt, for hopping in with me and supporting me. Actually, you know what? I gotta reach out to you, man. I gotta ask you a question about something, man. I gotta remember to do it though, because I'm kind of, my brainicle. But anyway, that's gonna do it for tonight. We'll be back on Wednesday for another show. We'll figure something out. We'll find something to talk about. We got tonight, man. We got the damn Warriors and the Spurs tonight. So I'm all about that life right now. I'm gonna catch a little bit of that Hawk situation coming on at 9:00. But yeah, my life is gonna be about Steph Curry and Tony Parker and Kawhi Leonard and Draymond Green. That whole situation. I'm all about it, man. So we'll see you guys. Well, I'll see you guys. Talk to you guys on. I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday, man. Have a good one.